I think we have a situation on our hands. We have a mild case of peak cinema, great writing, fantastic dialogue. I think it's safe to say that Game of Thrones. Actually, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon of Game of Thrones is back because I'm one of the people that really enjoyed House of the Dragon. I think House of the Dragon was quite good. Season 2, a little bit of choppiness and not greatness here and there, but overall, I still think it's a great show. Season 3 trailer looks wild. I'm there for it. But we have to talk about how amazing not House of the Dragon. We need to talk about how amazing Night of the Nine Kingdoms is, evidently. Not just the Seven Kingdoms, the Nine Kingdoms, as I increase my size by roughly 9 times so you can see my face a bit better. What a show, man. What a season. I, like everyone else, once I heard it was only 6 episodes and roughly 35 minutes for each episode, was definitely on the fence, wasn't sure how it was going to pan out. It felt like, just like with a lot of the Disney Plus Marvel shows, I thought it was going to leave us very wanting because of the short run times. But yeah, just like everyone else is talking about, I think that this is peak Game of Thrones. It's so amazing that it's such a self-contained, smaller story, so much more character focused, character work. Again, the dialogue, man, like I'm not often somebody that rewatches shows straight away. Normally I would rewatch a show after some time has passed, maybe like a few years. Because I like to kind of forget key moments and then re-experience it again, or give some time in between and then watch it again with a friend that hasn't seen it or something like that, right? But I'm probably gonna, not probably, I'm definitely gonna rewatch it again quite soon because let me put my phone on silent. Struggle streaming right now because there's so many well planted seeds that grow into something meaningful as the show progresses, and I'm gonna have a good time rediscovering that or re-noticing it, or I guess just noticing it because I didn't notice it at first when you first watch it through, right? But yeah, I just finished watching the last episode 6, and I don't often do like TV show reviews, although I should start because there's a lot of shows that I want to talk about. But can we just give a round of applause to the main actor that plays Dunk? I forget his name now. I watch a bunch of reviews after each episode, and all the reviewers know the actors' names. It's just escaping my head right now, and I don't want to quickly check it right now. I'll probably edit it in the window or whatever. Yeah, he did really great. He is one of those actors that feels like, like the Patrick Stewart kind of effect, right? Like this guy was just born to play Xavier, and if he did not play Xavier, probably there would have been a World War III and more nukes would have been dropped on multiple countries. But thankfully he didn't, or thankfully he did, which allowed nuclear warfare to not happen. And I think that the actor that plays Dunk is in a similar position. He's just, just feels very born to be in the role. So he gives me, for anyone that's watched Smallville, he reminds me of Tom Welling, the actor that played Superman in Smallville. Kind of like that, but just an Irish version. I think he's Irish, right? Or British? I think he's Irish, yeah. I'm aware that he was an Irish rugby player. So, yeah, he just gives me those kinds of vibes. Very pure, but very, very, very honorable. Kind of somebody that you can really root for, right? Which is, I'm saying that like I'm saying like a big, like, wow, this show is good because you can root for the main character. But I think that they do a really good job to make you want to root for him very naturally, rather than the show kind of beating you over the head with, you need to root for this character. Here, allow us to force you to root for this character because the story requires it. I didn't feel like the story was forcing me. It felt like it was a very natural process, The relationship between Dunk and Egg was very well put on screen. One of my favorite moments were, I should say spoilers, by the way. I mean, anyone who's stumbled into this video somehow who is watching this, I imagine you're only going to be watching this because you just watched the last episode and you're kind of just going through the internet to see what people think about it. And somehow you found your way here. If so, thank you. And if you like what I'm about to say, which you wouldn't know yet because I haven't said it yet, but if you go back in time after liking what I've said, please like the video and perhaps subscribe if you are curious to hear more of my takes on media and stuff like that. But yeah, the relationship between Dunk and Egg was a charming thing to watch play out on screen. Those actors really, you can tell that they really get along, and they really kind of have a natural knack to working together. I was going to say, one of my favorite parts was one of my favorite moments that kind of personified how well their relationship was on screen was the woof, the woof moment, right? Like I think it's episode 1 or 2, or probably episode 1, when they're having a conversation, and then Dunk is like threatening Egg about what he'll do if he steals his horses, right? And then the exchange ends with Dunk saying "woof," like woofing at him like a dog, right? And then that came full circle in the in episode 5, just before Dunk was about to get into the trial of the 7, and then I think Egg is like, "Don't die on me," and then Dunk says something, and then Egg does the woof in return, right? Which is just like good writing 101. Like it's very good for a writer or a story to have a moment that is kind of like paid off, and it doesn't have to pay off like in a huge story way. You know, it could just be a small way, right? Like a Dunk said woof at the beginning, and then Egg said woof in episode 5, and the completion of that circle makes the characters feel more connected. You know, not that we only would have felt the connection due to the woof scene. You know, we felt the connection either way, but the woof scene is just like a cherry on the top. You know, like a check mark at the end of the sentence of these characters really get along. These characters really care for each other. And speaking of the trial of the 7, I want to talk about the trial of the 7 and how what happens with Baylor, in my mind, is essentially it's like the encore of why this show is so amazing, and that moment for me is what puts it in the same tier as peak Game of Thrones, like the original series, season 1 to 4. I'm in the camp that seasons 1 to 4 is the pinnacle. 5 had some okay moments, but from 5 onwards is where the descent from grace begins, you know. And I know that's not really a hot take. I think that's like the common sentiment from most people. And yeah, the Baylor scene and the way that whole episode played out was, in fact, I've got like the screenshots up here because I actually want to walk through why exactly I think that it was so good. Here it is. So I'm actually going to compare this entire episode, or at least this moment, to the series of events that happens in the Red Wedding. Spoilers if you haven't seen the original Game of Thrones. I highly doubt that you're here and you haven't seen it, so I think I'm safe to talk about what happens there, right? But the reason why the Red Wedding is so amazing, or one of the many reasons why, is because it does a fantastic job of lulling you into a false sense of security right up until shit gets crazy, right? Like, I remember when I first watched the Red Wedding, I genuinely felt that everything was going to be cool. And it wasn't until Catelyn and Roose Bolton are at the dinner table, and then I probably should rewatch it again before making a video like this, but Bolton's saying some stuff, and Catelyn's kind of feeling like an awkward vibe, right? Or maybe she's hearing what he's saying and she's taking it to mean something very specific. And I remember there's a moment where she reaches over to him and she pulls up his sleeve, and under his sleeve is chainmail, right? Which obviously in Game of Thrones, or I guess in that timeline in medieval times, you wouldn't be wearing chainmail under your clothes at a wedding. So obviously the chainmail signals that something's going to go wrong. There's some kind of betrayal. There's going to be a fight, you know. So she pulls up the sleeve, and if I recall, she slaps him. If I recall correctly, she slaps him after that because in her mind, like, she knows exactly what's going on. She knows a betrayal is coming, and I thought that it was fascinating, like really, really amazing, and really a real sense of achievement that the showrunners and the director was successfully able to take me on a journey and make me feel safe, all the way up until the chainmail is revealed. And this episode, I think, does a very similar thing, right? Like, I believe everyone who didn't know the fate of Baelor probably knew something was wrong at a different moment in this scene, right? So here, you've got Baelor, you've got the blacksmith guy trying to help out Dunk, and then Baelor, even from the very moment that Baelor steps into the tent or into the area that they are, he's already limping. He's already like walking in a very low energy way. But upon first watch, like, you're never going to think anything of it. In fact, you're just going to think, well, he's just had an epic battle. Of course he's limping. Look at Dunk. Dunk is like looking like a zombie right now. So it makes sense that he would be looking zombie-like as well. So he's limping in while they're tending to him, and he says a line about don't put oil, use wine, right? Even here, like this scene, I'm like, oh yeah, wow, Baelor made it. Like everything's cool, and like the way he stabs his sword in the ground, you just think that he's just using the sword to, maintain a bit of balance because he's just tired. Like he's here, everything's fine. Like right now, I'm feeling very safe and very confident that Baelor is A-okay. And so what happens here? Oh, I find this moment to be very interesting as well, because if you watch it back, even here, Baelor is actually swaying. Like he's swaying back and forth, like a little bit, like very subtly, like it's not very blatant. And again, that could just be taken as he's tired, right? But even here, he's fucked, but we don't know it at this point, right? So he's swaying back and forth. And then this is when Duncan tells him, "I'm your man," right? And here he's kind of swaying as well. He's swaying back a bit. The Dunk says, "I'm your man," and then he's waiting for the response, and then he says, "I need good men to serve the realm," and all of that. And here is the, and again, even now, I'm still in safety town. I'm still like everything's okay world, right? I'm in Disneyland right now. Okay. He puts his arm on him. And then here is where I think this is a stroke of genius, because what actually happens is Baelor loses balance. Baelor kind of like stumbles back a bit, and then Dunk loses balance, of course, because here Dunk is messed up. So he's using Baelor for support, for like physical support. So then when Baelor staggers back, Dunk falls down. But when I first watched it, my interpretation was Dunk falls first. Like Dunk leans over and falls because he's weak and hurt. So I thought that upon Dunk losing balance, then Baelor, like that causes Baelor to back up, right? Because Dunk's body weight made Baelor kind of push back. I think that's how they're playing it. They're playing it to make it seem like this stumble here is due to Dunk, but the stumble was actually caused by Baelor, and his stumble made Dunk lose balance, which I thought was, upon rewatching, is genius, right? Because clearly that was intentional. So even now, for me at least, maybe there's some others who watched it that believe that that Baelor was, or they knew at this moment that Baelor was fucked. I did not know. I thought still here, Baelor is completely fine. So Baelor stumbles back. And then here, even here, when he says, "Hey, could you remove my helm?" I thought things were fine. But it was just, it was for me, it was the visor's cracked. The visor's cracked line really made me think, all right. Honestly, as soon as he said that, I'm like, okay, he's dead. Immediately I said he's dead. Not just because of the line, but because of, at this point, there was an ominous focus on everything to do with Baelor, like his frame, just the way the camera was like centering on him so much, and then mix that with the visor line. I'm like, yeah, his days are numbered. And I love this line as well, because so my interpretation of this was, I upon first watch, I thought that his armor, his helm, was always like that. So my interpretation was, when he said my visor's cracked, and then Raymond's face is kind of looking at him like, what do you mean your visor's cracked? My interpretation was he never had a visor, but he had been hit so hard, he's basically shell-shocked, and he's saying that his visor's cracked. But it's like, bro, you don't have a visor. But then I rewatched the beginning of the scene, and his helmet did have some kind of like visor covering this kind of Y-shape opening here. So So I wasn't sure what he meant, but then I guess the line is supposed to mean that it's not that your visor's cracked, bro. It's that you have no visor, like, or your visor's completely destroyed or it's gone. So that's kind of that's the what the fuck moment. Like you, it's not that it's cracked, it's that it's fully gone, right? So he doesn't have the wherewithal to know that it's a lot more than a crack, right? I think that's what it is. But on my first watch, I thought, wow, this guy's really fucked because he's saying his visor's cracked, but he never had a visor to begin with. That was my interpretation. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, with with the with my former interpretation. Maybe somebody can correct me, but there's definitely something more about this line that I feel like I'm kind of missing a little bit. But I'm happy to be educated on that. But still, it was this line where I'm like, yeah, he is done for. And then obviously, yeah, the fingers feeling like wood. But by that point, if you're out there and you watch this for the first time and you were still, feeling secure at this point, then wow, you are a very I don't even know what word to use to describe. I guess the show just was so engrossing at that point that you were just along for the ride and nothing was taking you out of that ride. Because by this moment, I'm like, yeah, he is DEAD. Um, and then yeah, they're talking about the mace. I love the line where he leans in and he says, yeah, he's strong. Just showcasing how, man. Shout out to this actor, man. Like he just did such a great job to toe the line of I'm fine versus I'm complimenting my brother and congratulating Duncan for doing a good job and looking out for him, telling him that I'll send my maester and saying that don't use the oil, use the wine. He did such a good job of dancing between I'm actually quite messed up and I'm totally fine. Like I think that masterful work. Like if not for this performance, like so much of the whole false safety thing wouldn't have landed, like not at all. And then obviously they take off the helm. And another thing that was one of my favorite moments about this as well is this part here where the lady in the back just happens to stroll over as Baylor turns and just getting her reaction. Like the framing of this entire scene is just really, really well put together. I've actually watched this scene like 7 or 8 times. Like it's such a short moment, but every second, every shot, every build up has a payoff. Like I actually think this is like a miniature masterclass of just great cinematography and storytelling, like visual storytelling. And I actually believe that this scene right here can be extrapolated and kind of rained upon the entire show. And like it's like this scene takes place throughout the entire show, just in different ways and in different moments. And this scene kind of personifies and solidifies exactly why what is good about the entire show. That's why I wanted to just spend a moment to, even though I'm doing like a series review, I think this scene is there's no better way to describe how great the show is than kind of taking a moment to just discuss this scene. Because truly, I believe that this scene is like red wedding tier of one of the best things I've seen in TV, period, like ever in life. Um, Now, obviously, I know like the flashback moment in the middle of the episode was quite controversial for some people. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw the episode, like especially when you're watching it on a weekly basis, right? You have not just waited a week for the fight and then you're kicked out, you're like astral projected out of your body into a flashback scene. And you're checking the watch, you're like, there's no way they're gonna spend the rest of the episode on this flashback, right? And 10 minutes go by and the flashback is still going. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they are actually gonna focus on the whole episode with the flashback. But then they bring it back with the when the fucking Arlen says, get up, and then they cut straight back to the it was really. And I think as well, I don't want to critique it that hard because I imagine that had I not been watching it on a week by week basis, like anyone that decides to watch this show now and can just binge all 6 episodes, that flashback is probably not going to be as much of a big deal for them because they didn't need to wait, and it was an extra long wait as well because we had the Super Bowl situation on the previous episode, so we had to wait like a day or two longer, right, for the next one. But yeah, such a good show, man. I have no idea where the story is going to go. I don't know what happens with any of the characters, and I intend to keep it that way, hopefully. And I can't wait to see more of what happens. And apparently they're filming right now for the next season, and the next season is going to come out next year. Like they're apparently HBO is trying to get the Game of Thrones shows out on a faster schedule, which is good because we can't be out here waiting 2 to 3 years for seasons of TV shows. Like, yeah, it shouldn't. I understand for some shows maybe it's required because of the budget and the runtime, but with this show, especially if they keep the same runtime, there's no way we need to be waiting like more than a year, right? So, but yeah, hopefully I didn't miss anything too crazy. I know I'm pretty sure this is not like the best review out there or anything. I'm probably, well, not probably, I know for a fact I've missed a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of characterizations that I missed. Like I didn't talk about Arian. I think I actually think he's a really interesting character. Man, Maekar as well. Like with the latest episode when, again, talking about visual storytelling, right? I love the scene when Egg has the knife and he goes to Arian's bedroom and seemingly plans to kill him, but then Maekar is sitting in the corner and finds him, and then Aegon just drops the knife, or Egg just drops the knife, and you can see on Maekar's face that like perhaps this is not the first time that Egg has done this, you know, and we don't need a flashback like, Egg, you're doing this again. I've told you so many times not to kill your brother. Like you can see it on his face, and not only can you see on his face that he's done this multiple times, but you can see on his face that like he doesn't know what to do, and he feels like he's at a loss, and he's just lost his brother as well. And that probably leads into him asking Duncan to take Egg, because he probably knows that if the longer Egg stays within the family, there's just an increased chance that perhaps Egg is going to actually successfully kill Arian in his sleep one day, right? Or maybe Arian will kill Egg, which is just going to be a disaster show for the Targaryens. So yeah, even though we didn't get a lot of screen time with Maekar, I like that you can see and feel so much of what he's going through despite not getting a lot of time with him, which again is just, these are the fingerprints and DNA of a really good, a really well woven story, which is how I want to leave this review. This show was incredibly well woven by the most masterful god tier Super Saiyan spiders, and I can't wait to see what they do for the next season. So that's my thoughts and feelings on House of the Dragon. Not House of the Dragon. You could tell my mind is just ready for House of the Dragon season 3. Those are my feelings on House of the Seven Kingdoms, or Nine Kingdoms, perhaps with an asterisk on the end. And I really enjoyed this, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, leave a comment and let me know what your favorite moment was. Let me know if I did a good breakdown of the Baelor scene. I was just spitting off the dome, so I don't know if I missed anything or, you know, made any sense at all, but I guess I'll find out sooner or later in the comments. So if you like what you saw and you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button, give this video a like. Sometimes I stream video games, mostly Monster Hunter, while talking about a bunch of random stuff like TV shows and other video games and social stuff and politics and dating apps, like all kinds of stuff. I have a vibe and a stream where I play games and I just want to talk about anything. No topics are off limits. So if you like that kind of stuff, pass on by and say hi. Peace.